Oh, and it's being recorded, yes. And then I have to just mute everybody so you guys don't accidentally get in the recording. Okay, sorry about that. Stay in your downward dog. Keep going. You can do it. All right. So here we are in downward dog. Legs are straight. Arms are straight. Pushing with your hands through your straight arms. Pushing your shoulders toward the ground. And now just gently come forward into your plank. So you're going to lower your hips and come forward, bring your shoulders over the top of your wrist, keeping your back flat so that your hips, your shoulders, and your ankles are in a straight line. So your hips aren't up toward the sky like in downward dog, but they're also not sagging down like in upward dog, just flat. And just stay there for a couple of breaths. And then lift your hips up again, pushing back into downward dog. And then come forward again into plank. And then push back again to downward dog. And one more time, come forward into plank. And now what we're going to do this time is we're going to do like a hollow body plank. So you can already kind of see in the video if you have access to it. I'm pushing my scapula up toward the sky, and I'm pushing my belly button toward my back. So my hips are still down. I'm not pushing my hips up. My hips are still in the same line that they are in a normal plank, but I'm just sucking my belly in and then pushing my scapula up, pushing really hard through my hands. And you should feel a different engagement there in your core. So that's a hollow belly plank. And we're going to come back to that. But for now, go ahead and push back into downward facing dog. And now just one more time, come forward again and try to do that hollow belly plank. So again, you're pushing your belly button towards your spine, pushing your scapula up toward the ceiling, and then push back into downward facing dog. And then just walk your feet forward, keeping your legs straight if you can, walking your feet to your hands. And then go ahead and raise your arms up to the sky and look up. And then bring your hands to prayer at the heart. Close your eyes and just tilt your chin down for a couple of breaths. Maybe set an intention for your practice today, what you're hoping to get out of it. Some people like to dedicate their practice to somebody. If there's someone special in your life, someone you want to send good vibes to, you can think about who that is and dedicate your practice to them. One more breath. On your next inhale, open your eyes, lift your arms up and look up. And then exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. And exhaling, take your right foot to the back of the mat and your left foot to the back of the mat. Then come into chaturanga. So lowering your body toward the ground, keeping your elbows at your sides. And then tuck your toes or untuck your toes. Bring your chest forward into upward dog, keeping your shoulders down away from your ears. And now tuck your toes and push your hips up to the sky and push back into downward facing dog. So we've already been here today, so hopefully this feels a little bit more open than your last one. So keep pushing your chest toward your thighs. So I'm just gonna turn to the side, although probably nobody can see me because you're facing the other way. But what I mean by that, if you can tilt your head up, you can see, I guess, is instead of being like here where your hips are a little bit forward, really push the hips back and up toward the sky. And then instead of having your chest up so that there's not a straight line, like right now, there's not a straight line from my hips to my hands, you're gonna push your chest down and toward your thighs to make that more of a straight line. And actually, like, eventually your head will be on the ground. You know, if we keep doing this forever. Anyway, on your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky, bring your right foot forward, bring your left foot forward, and fold. And then inhaling, come up to standing with your arms up to the sky. Exhaling, bring your hands to prayer at your chest. Inhaling, raise your arms up and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Exhaling, take your left foot to the back of the mat. Take your right foot to the back of the mat and you're in plank. And exhale, down into chaturanga. And inhale, up to upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog. And we'll stay here for a few breaths. We'll see if you can try to bring your heels closer to the ground. Make sure your feet aren't too far apart from each other. Like I probably have about maybe 6 inches between my feet. So they're not like all the way out to the sides of your mat. Kind of hip distance apart. Same with your hands. Your hands also shouldn't be too far apart from each other. You want them about shoulder distance apart with your fingers pointing forward. And your next inhale, take your left leg up to the sky and come forward. Bring your left foot with you. Bring your right foot forward and fold. And inhaling, come up to standing with your arms up to the sky. And then exhaling, hands to prayer. Inhaling, raise your arms up and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Take your right foot to the back of the mat and your left foot to the back of the mat. And come into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog. And a few breaths here. So try not to be passive in this pose. Be pushing something, be trying something. Stay active. One more breath here. And on your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Come forward, bring your right foot forward. Bring your left foot forward and fold. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing with your arms up to the sky. And exhale, hands to prayer. One more round just like this. Inhaling, arms up to the sky and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Exhaling, take the left foot to the back of the mat. Take the right foot to the back of the mat. Chaturanga. And inhale, upward facing dog. You can add another chaturanga here if you like or not, and then go straight back to downward facing dog. Hopefully starting to warm up here a little bit. On your next inhale, take your left leg up to the sky. Bring your left foot forward. Bring your right foot forward and fold. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing with your arms up to the sky. And exhale, hands to prayer. Your next inhale, sit your bottom down like you're sitting in a chair. So your knees are over the top of your ankles. You should be able to look down and see your toenails. And exhale, straighten your legs and fold forward. Inhale and look up. Exhale, your right foot to the back of the mat. Then your left foot to the back of the mat. You're in plank. And come down to chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog. Take your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward. Place it in between your hands. Swivel your left heel down. And come up into warrior one. Front knee is bent with the knee over the top of the ankle. Your back leg is straight. Back toes are angled in about 45 or 60 degrees. Your hips are facing forward. And bring your arms up to the sky, keeping them clasped or not. Exhaling, put your hands on either side of that foot. Right foot to the back of the mat. Come into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Take your left leg up to the sky. Bring your left foot forward in between your hands. Swivel your right heel down. Coming up into warrior one on this side. So again, the front knee is bent, trying to make that thigh parallel to the earth. The back foot is rotated in. The back leg is straight. Weight is to the outer edge of that back foot. Hips are facing forward. Arms are lifted up. And exhale, hands down on either side of that foot, left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog for a few breaths. On your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Come forward, bring your right foot forward. Bring your left foot forward and sit in a chair. And exhaling, fold forward. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing with your arms up to the sky. Maybe a little back bend if you like, and then hands to prayer at the heart. Inhaling, sit down like you're sitting in a chair. Your arms up and your chest lifted. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Exhaling, take your right foot to the back of the mat. Take your left foot to the back of the mat. And come down to chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog. Come forward into plank. And then bring your left foot in, bending your knee. Bring your knee toward your chin. So you're kind of doing that hollow belly again, pushing through your hands to push your scapula up. And then bring your knee as close to your chest and your chin as you can. And then exhaling, push back into downward dog with a lifted left leg. Come forward again, bring your left knee forward and bring it to your left elbow or triceps. And exhaling, downward dog with a lifted left leg. Come forward one more time, bring your left knee with you, and this time twist, bring it to your right elbow. And exhale, down dog with a lifted left leg. And then come forward, place your left foot in between your hands, rotate your right heel down, and come up into warrior one. Exhale, hands down on either side of that foot, left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog. This time take your right leg up to the sky, come forward into plank and bring your right knee with you. Again, pushing through your hands to push the scapula up toward the ceiling, bringing your knee into your chest and your chin. And then exhale, push back, down dog with the lifted right leg. And then come forward into plank, bringing your right knee with you, bring it to your right elbow or tricep. And then push back, down dog with a lifted right leg. And come forward one more time, bringing that right knee to your left elbow. And exhale, down dog with a lifted right leg. And then bring that right foot forward, place it in between your hands, rotate your left heel down, warrior one on this side. Exhale, hands down on either side of that right foot to the back of the mat. Chaturanga. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale to downward dog. Bring your right foot to the front of the mat. In between your hands, bring your left foot to the front of the mat and sit in a chair. And exhaling, fold forward. And inhale, come all the way up to standing. Maybe a little back bend, and then hands to prayer. One more round like this. Inhaling, arms up to the sky, and sit your bottom down in a chair. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Take your left foot to the back of the mat. Take your right foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Just 2 breaths there. And now come forward into plank. So again, bringing your shoulders over your wrists. We're just going to do 2 push-ups. So you can bring your knees down to the ground if that's more accessible for you. And we'll go down and then up. And one more, keeping your elbows in at your sides. And up. And push back into downward dog. Inhale your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward. Rotate your left heel down, warrior one. exhaling, hands down on either side of that foot, right foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga, upward facing dog, and push back to downward facing dog. Come forward again to plank, and 2 more push-ups. Again, with your knees on the ground is optional. So down and up. 1 more, down and up. Push back to downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg up to the sky. Bring your left foot forward, rotate your right heel down, warrior 1. And exhaling, hands down on either side of that foot. Left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog, just for a few breaths here. On your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward. Bring your left foot forward and fold. Oh, sorry, sit your bottom down in a chair. And then fold. And inhaling, come up to standing, and then bring your hands to prayer. Close your eyes, tilt your head down for just 2 breaths. Inhaling, arms up to the sky. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Take your left foot to the back of the mat. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Then exhale to downward facing dog. And your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward. Swivel your left heel down, and we're coming into warrior 2. So the front knee is bent with the knee over the top of the ankle, trying to get that thigh parallel to the ground. Your back leg is straight and your feet are angled in. The weight is to the outside edge of that back foot. You may want to widen your stance a little bit compared to where you are for warrior 1. Your hips are open to the side rather than facing forward. And your pelvis is tucked under, so your bottom isn't jutting out. It's tucked right underneath you. Arms are at shoulder level, with your right arm extending forward and left arm extending back. You can go ahead and take a look at that backhand. Make sure it's not too high or too low or off to the side. And then just breathe. And go ahead and bring your hands to your hips. Rotate your hips forward, coming onto the ball of that back foot. So we're in crescent. Front leg is remaining bent. The back leg is straight. Bring your arms up to the sky, keeping them clasped or open either way. Again, trying to keep that front thigh parallel to the earth. And then go ahead and bring your hands to prayer at your heart. We're going to fold forward. You may want to inch that back leg in just a couple inches. And then you're going to twist. Bring that left elbow either to your right knee or to the outside of your right knee in this prayer position. If you want, you can straighten the arms. If you want, you can bind, taking that left arm underneath and your right arm back to grab your own hand. Try to rotate your chest up toward the sky. If your hands are bound, unbind and come back to having your hands in a prayer position. And then we're going to lean forward and see if you can lift that back foot off the ground. And if you can get it off the ground, then try bending it and bringing your knees close to each other. And then straighten that leg again. This is your left leg. Bending and straightening. And bending and straightening. Your front leg remains bent. Left leg bending and straightening and bending and straightening one more time. Bring that knee in and then push it back to the back of the mat. So you're kind of in this crescent position again. And now what you're going to do is come forward, bringing that knee up. So this is your left knee. The one that was at the back of the mat is now bent. Ooh, sorry, I'm having trouble with my balance. Bent in front of you. And I have to move just a smidge. Okay, so you can keep your knee bent here. And we're going to do the same thing we've done before. It's going to go to the front and out to the side, so make sure you have room. If you have a wall next to you for support, you can use it. If you want to straighten that leg, you can. Just grab the big toe with the first two fingers of the same hand and extend the leg out in front of you. Key is to make sure you're not having to lean forward to do that. If you have to lean forward, just go with the knee. And now go ahead and take that leg out to the side. And then go ahead and bring it forward. Now see if you can switch hands. And again, you can do this with the knee, or you can do it with the extended leg. So if you're going to do it with the extended leg, your right hand is going to grab the outside of your left foot, and you straighten your leg forward and extend your left arm behind you. And you can take your gaze to the side or behind you, again, trying to keep your chest lifted up. And again, you can do that with your knee. You just take your right hand to the outside of your left knee and rotate your chest to the side. Wherever you are, come back to face forward. Let go of that foot, but try to keep it in front of you. Whew. Just for a couple of breaths. And go ahead and bend that knee and take that foot to the back of the mat, coming into warrior two. Just a couple of breaths here. And now we're going to go into side angle, so you can bring your right elbow to your right thigh, or if that feels comfortable and you want to go a little bit deeper, you can bring your right hand to the inside of that right foot. You can extend the left arm up to the sky or bring it up by your ear. Your back leg is still straight. If you want to, you can bind here, taking your right arm underneath your thigh and taking your left arm behind. Okay, if your hands are bound, unbind them. Go ahead and place your right hand down on the ground. Push your weight forward a little bit. We're going to half moon. So you're going to put your right hand in front and just to the left of your right foot. Oh, sorry, to the right of your right foot. Just toward the outside edge. And you're going to push off that back leg, bringing that leg up to hip height. Your hips are open to the side, so your hips are stacked. Your left hip on top of your right hip, and your shoulders are stacked. Your left shoulder on top of your right shoulder, and you bring that left arm up to the sky. And you can either stay here or you can push off of that right hand a little bit and bring that hand into half namaste at your chest. By the way, if you have a block and want to put that where your hand is under your right hand, you can do that. One more breath. And then go ahead and slowly and gently come back into warrior two. And then windmill your arms on either side of that right leg. Push the right leg to the back of the mat. Come into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog for a couple of breaths. And you might notice here how your legs feel different at this point, having done that sequence on one side but not the other. Just something to notice. On your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward. Bring your left foot forward and fold. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing with your arms up to the sky. And then bring your hands to prayer. And now to do that on the other side, inhaling, arms up to the sky and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhale and look up. Take your left foot to the back of the mat. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. And just pause here for a second in plank. Now try to do that hollow body again. So you're going to take your belly button toward the spine. Push your scapula, your shoulder blades up to the ceiling, keeping your hips pretty much right where they were. So you're just carving out your upper body. And just stay here for a couple of breaths. One more breath. And then push your hips back into downward dog. Inhale your left leg up to the sky. And then bring your left foot forward in between your hands. Swivel your right heel down. And warrior one on this side. So again, the front knee is bent over the top of your ankle with the toes facing forward. The back leg is straight with the toes angled in. Your hips are open out to the side. Your pelvis is tucked under. You may want to inch that back leg back just a little bit or not. Bring your arms up at shoulder level with your left arm straight in front of you and your right arm straight behind you. And then see if you can sink down just a little bit lower. Make sure your shoulders aren't up by your ears. Just rotate them away and down. One more breath. Go ahead and place your hands on your hips and you're going to rotate that back foot forward, coming onto the ball of that back foot into crescent. So your hips are facing forward, your front knee is still bent, your back leg is straight with your heel toward the ceiling. And go ahead and lift your hands up to the sky. And then go ahead and bring your hands to prayer. And now we're going to do that twist. You're going to bring your torso forward. You may want to inch that back foot in just a little bit. You're going to take that right elbow to the left knee or to the outside of that left knee if you can, bringing your hands into prayer. Or you can take that right hand down to the ground outside of that foot, extending the other arm straight up to the sky. Or if you took a bind on the other side, go ahead and take a bind here. So you take your right arm underneath your thigh, and then take your left arm behind and grab your hand. Rotating your chest toward the sky for one more breath. If you're bound, unbind. Coming into that twist with your hands in prayer position. Now we're going to lean forward a little bit. See if you can lift that back leg off the ground. And if you can bend that back leg off the ground, see if you can bend it. Sorry, if you can take that back leg off the ground, bend it in, and then straighten it back. This is your right leg bending in and straightening back. Your left leg remains slightly bent. Right leg is bending in and straightening back. A couple more times. Bending in and straightening back. Two more, bending in, straightening back, one more. Bending in and straightening back. Set that foot down to the back of the mat. Come into warrior two. Just for a second. And then rotate your hips to face forward and come forward, bringing that right knee with you. I'm gonna just move to the side so I have room. So we're gonna do that balancing sequence. Again, if you have a wall near you and you wanna use it for balance, that's totally fine. The knee can remain bent like this. You can grab your knee with the same hand. Or if you wanna straighten the leg, you can. You take your big toe in the first two fingers of that same hand and extend the leg forward. Again, keeping your chest lifted. And then go ahead and take that leg out to the side. And then bring it back forward. And again, you can keep it bent or straight. We're gonna switch hands. I find it helpful, to grab the outside of my foot with the knee bent first before I straighten that leg. But if you can do it keeping it straight the whole time, great. So now, whether you have hold of your knee or your foot, it's your left hand connected to your right leg and your right arm is behind you. And you can turn your gaze to the side or behind you, if you like. And now let go of that foot, but keep it where it is for a couple of breaths. Keeping your chest lifted. And then go ahead and bend that knee and then take that leg to the back of the mat, back in warrior two. And now we're going to go into side angle. So you can take your left elbow onto your left thigh, or you can bring that hand on the ground inside of that foot. Bring your right arm either up to the sky or at an angle by your ear. And if you took a bind on the other side, go ahead and take one here. So you're going to take your left arm underneath that thigh, your right arm goes back behind you, and then you rotate your chest up. Keeping that front knee bent. Now, if you're bound, go ahead and unbind, and then you're going to take that left hand in front of your foot, lifting that back foot off. So your left hand is to the front and toward the outside edge of that front foot. Your back leg, your right leg is lifted up at the level of your hip, stacked, so your right hip is over the top of your left. Your right shoulder is over the top of your left, and you can extend that right arm straight up to the sky. And then either stay here. Oh, by the way, your bottom hand can be on a block. And either stay here or take your bottom hand off the ground into a half namaste position. One more breath. And then go ahead and place that back foot on the ground behind you, back in warrior two, just for a couple of breaths. Keeping your shoulders down and away from your ears. And then windmill your hands on either side of that foot, left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog. And we'll stay here for a few breaths. And maybe you can see how this feels different compared to the last time we were here. Hopefully it feels a little bit more balanced. On your next inhale, take your left leg up to the sky. Bring your left foot forward and bring your right foot forward and fold. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing and then bring your hands to prayer at your heart. Inhaling, lift your arms up to the sky and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. Take your left foot to the back of the mat and come into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. Now come forward again into plank. Just one more time, we're going to do that hollow body. So pushing really hard through your hands. And just turning to the side. So pushing really hard through your hands, keeping your hips where they would be for a normal plank like this, except sucking in your belly, pushing your shoulder blades up. Your weight should be a little bit forward, so your shoulders are over the top of your wrists. You don't want them back here. One more breath. And push your hips back into downward dog. Inhale your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward. Bring your left foot forward and fold. And we're just going to stay here. So you can keep your feet together or you can heel toe them out a little bit so they're about hip distance apart. And then you can either grab your elbows and just gently lean forward. Or if you want a little more intensity, you can take the first two fingers of each hand and grab your big toes and lean forward. As you lean forward, you're bringing your weight toward the front of your feet. So your hips aren't jutting back with your weight in your heels. I can show this from the side, maybe that helps. So if your weight is in the back of your heels, this is where your hips are. But if you bring your weight forward, that's the shift. So here's weight in the heels, and then here's weight in the front of the feet. So see if you can bring the weight toward the ball of the feet. If you got hold of your big toes, widen your elbows, pulling them out toward the side. And then think about bringing your head closer to the ground. So don't think about pushing it through your legs or towards your shins, but just think about extending your spine down toward the ground. Your hips should be rotated up toward the sky. By the way, if you can't reach the ground or your toes, you can keep your hands on your shins, or like I said earlier, grab your elbows. Wherever you are, if you grab a hold of your toes, let go. Put your hands on the ground in front of your feet and just look up for a second, flattening your back. And then go ahead and take your right foot toward the back of your mat. Swivel your left toes to the side. So now your toes, all 10 toes are facing the side of your mat, and you're in a pretty wide straddle. And take a breath here. And now you can either stay here or you can walk your hands closer in line with your feet and then stay there, or Bring your head toward the ground or maybe on the ground. You can walk your hands through to behind your legs, using that to pull your chest down toward the ground. Any of those variations is fine. You can also grab the big toes of your feet if you like, and then use your arms to bring your head toward the ground. Whatever variation feels good to you. We're just going to stay here for a few breaths. And then walk your hands forward. And then lift up your spine so your spine is basically flat, parallel to the earth. And go ahead and place your right hand straight below your face. So kind of like in the center compared to where your feet are. And then you're going to take your left hand and bring it up to the sky. So you're rotating your chest so that your left shoulder is trying to get stacked over the top of your right shoulder. So your chest is open toward the sky, or to the side. Your feet are still in that straddle. You're pushing through that lower hand, that right hand, keeping that arm straight. And you can look up, or you can look straight ahead of you. And now go ahead and put that left hand where your right hand is, and we're going to just twist the opposite direction. So again, opening the chest toward the side, stacking now your right shoulder over the top of the left shoulder. Looking up or to the side, your legs remain in a straddle. Then go ahead and place that right hand back down on the ground. And now what you're going to do, we're just going to take that twist a little bit deeper. So you're going to take your right hand and bring it to your left ankle. Now, you see, to do that, I brought my chest up a little bit, but now we're going to try to bring that chest down toward this leg. As you do that, you might be able to bend your right leg, right hand, your right arm. I'll do this from the front so you can see. So right hand, left ankle, bending that right elbow, bringing my chest closer to that thigh, and then taking the left arm up to the sky. Your toes are still pointed forward. And if you are able to look up, I feel like that helps me get a little bit deeper in the twist. It's not mandatory. And go ahead and unwind. And let's go to the other side. So take your left hand to your right ankle. And again, I came up with my chest a little bit to do that. And now I'm going to sink back down, bringing my chest closer to that thigh, bending this elbow, and then taking the right arm up to the sky. And again, see if you can bring the weight toward the front of your feet instead of having it in your heels. And then release your hands, bring your hands back in between your feet. And then let's just one more time, go ahead and do that fold in the straddle position. So again, taking your hands to either be in line with your feet, grabbing your big toes or grabbing your ankles or walking your hands through, whatever you want to do. Try to bring your head forward and down toward the ground. Now rotate your left toes forward, bringing your hands on either side of that foot. And then bring your right foot forward and fold. And inhale, and come up to standing with your arms up over your head. And then bring your hands to prayer at the heart. And you may want to kind of move those legs around. That was a lot on the hamstrings there. Just give them a little jiggle. All right, I think we're ready to try a side crow. So we did this one other time, but we've done some, twisting and bending now. So hopefully your spine is kind of ready for it. So for side crow, what you're going to do is pick a side to turn to. I'm going to turn this way. So if I'm mirroring you, I'm turning toward my left. I'm going to bend my knees and sit in this squat. I'm going to take my right arm to the outside of my left knee. I'm using the other hand to push this thigh over so that I can get my arm further to the side. Because if this tricep is in connection with like the knee, the actual knee joint, it's very hard. But if you can get it a little bit up, and if you see from the side, maybe that'll help. See, my arm is not here at my knee, it's back here. The further back it is, the easier it's gonna be. And then, once that hand is there, the arm is around the leg and the hand is on the ground, then I can put my other hand down and it's parallel. Let me turn a little bit so you can see. So the hands are parallel to each other with all 10 fingers pointed straight ahead. And now I'm gonna lean forward, and forward means beyond my fingertips. I'm gonna lean forward. As I lean forward, it becomes harder for my legs to stay on the ground, and they just wanna kind of pop up. Now, you can have, this other hand can be on your hip. That's an easier way to start. So if you're just starting, you haven't done this before successfully, I would do that. You take the hand to the hip like this, and then come forward. But if you've been doing this for a while, then I would challenge you to keep that elbow out to the side a little bit and not rest your hip on that hand or on that elbow. So just try that. Let me come and see what people are doing. And if that's already easy, then work on straightening the legs, and I'll show you that in a second, if you don't know. It's hard for me to tell what most people are doing. Yeah, and if you'd rather not do side crow and you want to do regular crow, you can. Let me just show you one more thing. So if you are, I think I'll do it from here. So I'm going to stay on that same side just for demonstration purposes. So if I take this arm outside this leg, so this is in reality my left arm and my right leg. And then I put the other hand parallel and I lean forward. The next thing you can try to do is straighten that lower leg. And then see if you can hover the top leg off. And then if you can, see if you can extend it out behind you. That's kind of like what you're trying to get to, theoretically. And make sure you try both sides. Yeah, the key too is you got to get, sorry, one other thing. You do have to get your knee up above. Let me now show the other side so I balance myself out. So we talked about where the elbow is in relation to the knee, but I didn't mention this knee has to be higher up on your arm than your elbow. If your knee and elbow relationship is like this, so your elbow is higher than your knee, then when you go to turn and take your legs off the ground, you won't be able to do it. The elbow has to be lower than the thigh. If you can see that, let me see. Maybe there's a better angle. So like here, I don't know if that's clear, but if my elbow is not under my thigh, there's no way I can get the thigh onto the elbow. Like this is a shelf. You're creating a shelf for that leg to go on. And if the leg is down here, it's below the shelf, right? So the thigh has to be up high enough that when you rotate down, it'll be on top of the shelf. If that makes sense. So you're here. Just gonna see how people are doing. And if you need help or have any questions, this is a good time to ask. Okay, one other thing I'm noticing as I'm watching is, and this is common, and you can like put a pillow in front of you if that helps, but you really have to come forward. Like, let me show it here again. So you'll see, like here I am facing you, but it's side crook. So I'm gonna be this way. So when I go forward, you're gonna see how far forward my chest goes this way. So I start out like upright, right? Then I push this thigh over so I can get my arm all the way around, put my hands on the ground, and then just watch like how far forward I'm going with the chest. I'm not jumping in any way with the legs. I'm literally just going forward until they come off the ground because they just can't stay on the ground anymore. And I ran out of room here, but it's really the chest forward that makes it happen. And that's the same principle really for like almost all the arm balances. Yeah, Biosha, I see what you're doing. You're doing good. You're making progress. I think for you, your knee is not quite high enough. Like if you can sneak it a little bit higher, maybe use that other hand. So like this is, if I'm mirroring you, this would be left leg, left hand. Left hand pushes left leg way over so that you can get this arm here. And then you're bringing your chest down so that your elbow is lower than the thigh, if you can. Of course, it's a work in progress for all of us. Yeah, that's better. Hey, Rachel, look at that. Nice. Well done. Yeah, and definitely take breaks. We're not going to do this much longer, but I just want to make sure I get a chance to see what people are doing. And hopefully the no camera people are doing okay. All right. Everybody do both sides. Wave at me if you need more time and you didn't do the second side. Looks like I got at least one taker. Yeah, definitely do the other side. We want to try to be balanced. And this is a good time for a child's pose or a little bit of water if you're done with that. Also, if you want to do just a little wrist exercise, you can clasp your hands and just rotate them together and then go the other direction. That's always like a nice little wrist opener type thing, or you can, I do this a lot. I don't know if it matters, but it makes me feel better when I've got a lot of strain, like when I do a lot of handstands, I do that. Or you can, this is another one that feels good for me, putting the back of the hands on my thighs. Or you can, if you're really angry, you can do it like this. I'm so mad at you. Anyway, you can do that. One of my teachers likes to say that. All right, let's do, I always have so many ambitious plans. Let's skip the next thing I was gonna do and let's go ahead to core. So let's start on your back. We've done these before, but it's been a while. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna lay on your back, keeping your hands at your sides, or if you want more of a challenge, you can bring your arms up above your head. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna bend your knees and bring them in towards your chest, and then you're just gonna keep bringing them in until your head and your knees touch. And then you're gonna slowly bring them back down. Now, if you put your hands at your side, the reason that's a little bit less challenging is then you can push with your hands a little bit, right, to get your hips up, and that's fine. That's where we all start. But if that feels easy for you, then put your hands up overhead. All right, so let's go ahead and do a few of these. So this is slow and controlled, as always. Bring your knees up, and now slowly bring your back down to your mat, and then extending your legs back out. And again, bending your knees and bringing them in towards your forehead. And then slowly bringing your back down to the ground, and then extending your legs out in front. And we'll do just a few more, slowly bending your knees and bringing your knees towards your forehead. And then slowly lowering your back down and extending your legs straight ahead. Maybe two more. Bend your knees, bring your knees up to your forehead. And then slowly bringing your back to the ground and extend your legs straight ahead. One more, bend your knees, bring your knees to your forehead. And slowly bring your back to the ground and extend your legs out in front of you. And now you can keep your hands there, or you can bring them to your sides if they weren't already, and then lift your legs up to the sky. Now we're just going to do some basic crunches. Actually, sorry, I lied about where your hands are. Bring your hands to the back of your head, and then just lift your shoulder and chest off the ground, and then lower back down. Try to keep your legs straight. Lift your chest and shoulders up, and then back down. Try to keep your elbows wide, lifting your shoulders and chest off the ground, so you're not pulling on your head or neck. Your hands are just there to support your head. Lift up and back down. Lift up and back down. Lift up and back down. Keep going. Up and down. And up and down. And up and down. And up and down. Couple more. Up and down. Up and down. Up and down. One more. Up and down. Go ahead and take a second. Just bend your knees and bring them to your chest. And again, extend the legs up overhead. You can keep your feet pointed, or you can flex them toward your face. Extend your arms up above your shoulders, straight up toward the sky. And now we're just going to crunch up, trying to touch our toes. If you have your toes pointed, just try to get to the highest point on your feet that you can. If you can get your toes, you're amazing. Try to avoid swinging your arms overhead each time you come down, because then when you lift up, you're mostly using momentum. So I like to just keep them straight toward the sky and then pull myself up and 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 up, keeping those legs straight, and up and up and up. A few more. Up, 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 up. Two more. Up and up. And bend your knees and bring them into your chest. And one more time, extend the legs up toward the ceiling. Again, feet can be flexed or pointed. And now we're just gonna go to the opposite side. So this is my right hand. I'm gonna bring it toward my left ankle to the outside. Left hand to the outside of my right ankle. Right hand to the outside of my left ankle, and so on. Just alternating side to side. Keeping those legs straight. Keep going. Side to side. A few more. One more on each side. And go ahead and bring your knees into your chest. And then come forward, rolling forward onto your feet. And then tuck your feet under you, coming into cross-leg position. Place your hands out in front and straighten your legs out behind you. Now you're in plank. And go ahead and lower all the way down to your belly. And we're going to do this half cobra. So your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Your pelvis is on the ground. Your thighs are on the ground. You're going to tuck your toes under and then straighten your knees. So your lower legs are off the ground. Your upper thighs are on the ground. And then you're going to use your elbows to like do a drawing back motion on the ground. So they're kind of, I don't know if you can see that in my back. I'm trying to pull my elbows back without actually moving them on the rug. And that brings my chest forward. And I like this after core because it's such a nice stretch in the front side of your body without being extreme. And my buttocks are squeezing to protect my lower back. And go ahead and release all the way down to the ground for just a breath. And then push yourself up to a seated position. So here's where we need the books or blocks, if you have them. We're just going to do this quickly. So there's a couple variations. I'll try showing it from the front first and then maybe from the side after. So with blocks, it's easier. So if you have blocks, I would suggest using them. If you don't have blocks, it is definitely doable without them, and I'll show it both ways. So first thing is we're going to try a cross-legged position. So I will tell you that if you can get your legs in a lotus, this is about 1,000 times easier than if you're just cross-legged like this. So lotus, if you can do it, this is what it is. It's you take one ankle, bring it to the top of the opposite thigh, and then take the other ankle and bring it to the top of the opposite thigh. So you're sitting like this. This is way easier. But if you can't do it, that's totally fine. I'm going to show you without that. So if you can't do that, just simple cross-legged position. Bring the blocks towards your hips. So they're not out in front where my knees are, they're toward my hips. And I'm going to put my hands down on the blocks, facing forward. I'm going to push down. So I'm going to straighten my arms and push down through my shoulders, and then really engage my core and lift the legs up. And then just hold it. If you want, you can rock back and forth. That's the kind of action you're going to need if you ever want to jump. I don't know if you've seen people jump through their down dog to get to a seated position. It's this very intense engagement of the core. If you don't have blocks, no biggie. I'm going to show it from the side so you can see the relationship of the hands to the hips. Just put the hands on the ground next to the hips and lift up. It's just a little bit harder because you're closer to the ground. So try that one. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, I will say if your hands are far apart from each other, it's really hard. So if you put your hands like out here, it's very, very hard. You don't have, that's not a position of strength. Your hands need to be pretty well underneath your shoulders. So kind of in the same position as in a handstand, which I know you're not all doing handstands, but some of you have seen my pictures, like you're really stacked, your shoulders over the top of your wrists. That's where the strength is. If your hands are out to the side, you see that? That's not stacked. It's very hard to have power in that position. So again, from here, you really have to suck in. From here, it's your lower abs like sucking and lifting. It's the same idea that I talk about when we do the crow, where you're here and you're really lifting up. It's those same muscles. Now I'll give you just one more variation and then we'll move on. The other variation that's like harder, but just something to work toward. It's always good to have goals in life, I think. Keeps us interested. So again, you can do this with blocks or without blocks. I'll show it both ways. So blocks are right next to my hips. Legs are straight out in front of me. I'm going to again push and then lift the legs off the ground. And then you can do it without the blocks. It's the exact same thing. Hands on the ground. Push. And down. It's tiring. Anybody like these? No, it looks like everybody's like, I'm not doing that. Just give it a try. Because it's really like that, even if you can't do it, even if all you get to is like here with your feet on the ground still, you're still engaging those muscles. So it's still a good practice to work on to get to that. Anyway, I won't belabor the point. Okay, we've got just a couple minutes left. I wanted to spend like 2 minutes on shoulder stand because we don't really do shoulder stand usually in this class, but it's a good pose. So here's the deal. I'll show it from the side. So you are going to, if you already know shoulder stand, feel free to go into it. For those of you who don't, you're going to lay down on your back. You're going to kind of tilt your hips up off the ground, kind of like we did in that core exercise. And then bring your hands to your back. When you bring your hands to your back, you're pointing your fingers, I don't know if you can see this, I'll do it from another angle too, but my fingers are pointed up toward the sky, okay? So away from my scapula. And then I'm going to extend my legs up toward the sky. Now, I'm going to move away from this cabinet, but as you do this, the lower you can get your hands on your back, and by lower, I mean toward the ground, but higher up on your back, the more straight your back will be, and the more straight your legs will be up toward the sky. So just try that, even if you're here or here, give it a go. The more your weight is toward your face, by the way, the less strain there will be on your wrists. I would recommend, like I said, to get into it, that you first bring your hips up, just like we did in that core exercise, and then place your hands at your back, and then straighten the legs up. And if you're already like pretty advanced at shoulder stand, work on taking your, oops, sorry, lost my phones. Work on taking your hands off your back, and then you just bring them up to your thigh. You can do 1,000 other things. You can come to lotus or whatever, but just do that. And then I want to show you one more variation before we finish. Yes, Biosha, see if you can walk your hands down a little bit closer to your shoulder blades. Yes, perfect. Yes, Marielle. Same thing. See if you can walk your hands down one by one, slowly by slowly. Yep, exactly. Nice. Nice. Okay, one more thing if you want to just come out of that for a second. So if there's a few people who are, seems like doing pretty well with shoulder stand. So I want to show you, I think maybe this way. Let's see how it works. It's like a little planche, but from a shoulder stand position. So I'm gonna go up like in a shoulder stand. I'm gonna rotate my hips. This is, I know I'm not gonna mirror you right now. This is actually my left hand. I'm gonna place my hips onto my left hand. Now I'm gonna hit that wall. Sorry, let me move. So hips onto that left hand. My right hand is extending out to this side. And then I'm gonna lower these legs till I have something like a straight line. And then I can come out of it. And you can do that with one leg. You can keep, so that was my left hip on my left hand. You can keep the right knee bent in towards your chest and then only extend the one leg just to get a sense of it. But I will say before you try it too much is this is, sorry to be gross, but this is where the hand has to be. So my wrist is like, this is my anterior superior iliac spine. So it's higher up than that. It's not down here on my bottom. It's like closer to my waist. Like my SI joint is probably right here. It's just to the side of that. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. The other thing I would say about the hand placement, maybe I'll do it this way, and then we're almost out of time, but let me see if this helps at all. It does have to be, you don't want your hand all the way over to one side, or else you'll just kind of fall over. So it's kind of like if this is my entire pelvis, if this is half my pelvis on the side that I'm going toward, my hand should be kind of in the center of that half, if that makes sense. So let me make sure I'm somewhere I can actually do it. Okay, let's try this. So here I am, basically right around here actually is where it's going to have to be. So you see it's not way down here, it's not way over here, it's not way over here. It's kind of like in the middle of that half of my pelvis. And then it feels very comfortable. And this is like that halfway position I was saying. You can extend just the one leg and keep the other knee bent in. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, you can keep this hand up here if you want. I think it's easier when you go to extend this other leg. I think it's easier to have the arm down for balance. And then bring your knees toward your chest again, taking the pressure off your hand before you come down. So go ahead and just do one more regular shoulder stand, or try to do this planche, or just something, try something. And then we'll wrap up. Yeah, be careful of your wrists. Oh, here's a question. Let's see. Is your hand across to the other side? It is not across to the other side. It's on the same side. All right, go ahead and finish up whatever you're working on. I'm watching. Yeah, okay, go ahead and finish up. Let me show you one last thing. We won't do it anymore. I want to save everybody's wrist, but for next time, or if you want to practice on your own, one other thing is when you go up into shoulder stand, your back is pretty much like straight, or if anything, you might have a little bit of a curve like this, right? You might have a little bit of this before you're able to, especially when you're starting and you can't quite, you don't have the core strength quite to like straighten all the way up. What will happen, let me try showing it this way in case that helps. What will happen is you'll end up having to curve the spine. So here you see that like my spine's kind of like this in the shoulder stand. Then when I come down here, do you see that there's like an arch now in my back? Let me see if I can do it a little bit more this way. So here's shoulder stand. And then here's this position. Do you see this arch? So my back here is curved so that I can kind of like sit on my hand. That's what has to happen. Your pelvis can't be here, because if it's here, the weight is too far forward. So it's like I'm going up and falling. I'm going up and then trying to sit on to my hand. We can work on it again another time. All right, go ahead and come into Shavasana. So go ahead and lay down on your back with your hands alongside your body, with your palms facing up and your feet maybe about hip distance apart. Or if you'd rather, you can go up against a wall. Sometimes I like to do that for Shavasana. I put my legs up in the wall, against the wall in a straddle. Or you can stay in a seated position. Any of those are fine. Whatever you're doing, just try to focus on your breath and stay in this moment.
Come on, skinny love, just let's sing it. Pour a little salt, we will never eat. My, 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 my. Staring at the sink road across beneath. So I love to wreck it all. Cut out all the ropes and let me fall. My, 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 my. Right in this moment, this all is torn. And I told you to be patient, and I told you to be fine, and I told you to be balanced, and I told you to be kind. And in the morning I'll be with you, but it will be a different kind. And I'll be holding all the tickets, and you'll be holding all the fine. Come on, skinny love, what happened? So cool on the hope and leprosy. My, 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 my. So know it's rude, so slow on the street. And I told you to be patient, and I told you to be fine, and I told you to be balanced, and I told you to be kind. And now all your love is wasted, and then who the hell was I? And I'm breaking at the bridges, and at the end of all your life.
Go ahead and start waking up, coming back into your body by wiggling your fingers and your toes, maybe rotating your ankles and your wrists. Maybe giving yourself a big stretch with the arms up overhead, extending your legs straight out in front. And then bend your knees, rolling onto your side, cradling your head with your arms, and then push yourself up to a seated position. Gently close your eyes and just take a couple of breaths here. I really love that song. I like when he says, I told you to be patient and I told you to be kind, as though that's enough to make somebody do those things. But anyway, that's my note to you. Let's all try to be patient and kind as we go out into the world today. Thank you for spending your time here, taking care of yourself and joining our little group. I hope everyone has a lovely day. Namaste.